So I need to start talking about my stuff. Okay, so I'm glad you all are here. You picked the right program to come to because we're obviously the best speakers. This idea came up in terms of the other bucket list. And I think there was a lady in the audience that said, what is this program? So I forget who came up with this name, but what is your, are you hitting the slides? Okay, so flip to the next one. What is it and what goes in it? Okay, so your typical bucket list. What does everybody talk about with their bucket list? That movie that was out with what do you want to do before you die? You changed my entire font. I don't like that. No. What is it? You probably know what most people refer to when they talk about a bucket list. What is it? That's your bucket list, right? That's what you want to go do. All right, so yeah, I want to go there. It's in Hawaii, if you don't know. I can't ski, but it's really pretty. I picked that one. And that's the World Series. So you all have your bucket list? You all have those things that you want to go do? Are you doing them? Great. You can't afford to do them. Okay. Come on in. So one of the things on my bucket list was I always wanted to go to those national parks in Utah. Ever been to those parks in Utah? Yeah. If you haven't, you should go. Okay. It costs a little bit of money to go in. It's not that expensive. You can buy a pass and get in. It's unbelievable. Okay. So now it's off my bucket list. Now I want to go back. I put it back on the bucket list because I went with my wife and she didn't want to spend much time at any of the parks. It's like, wait a minute. So she was like pushing me to the gift store, which was fun. But so now I want to go back and see them again and actually spend some more time there. So, but to do all those things and not have to worry about, you know, when you go on vacation, about anything else, switch. You need to have another bucket list. And you need to have another bucket and another bucket list. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So the bucket list that I'm talking about is not as much fun as, you know, going to Hawaii or going to the World Series. It's really, what do you need to do so that you don't worry about other stuff, okay? Now, I can't stop you from worrying about everything, but what we're going to do today is, for the next 10 minutes or so, is we're really going to talk about what you need to put in that other bucket, what you need to do as you get older. It's not going to be a comprehensive list. It's interesting, when we were looking at this program, there's not a tremendous amount of information out on some of this stuff. And a lot of times when you go look for some of these things, you'll find companies that are trying to sell you something. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just saying these are things that you ought to consider, you ought to think about, you ought to talk to people about, and make sure you get them in place. Okay, so number one, get your financial, insurance, and legal stuff all together in a way that someone else can understand it. So I'm sure everybody in here has all their important paperwork all together in a nicely in a put together box with a lock and key, with instructions about everything. So in case, you know, something were to happen to us in this room, you know, right now, your family, somebody would come in and be able to find all the paperwork, right? Everybody's got that together, right? Great. Okay. So, okay. So one of the things they tell you to do is to put it all together in one place. All right. So you want to get all your documentation and get it together and stick it all together. Okay. Don't put it outside. Don't bury it. Don't do any of that stuff. Get it all together in one place. All right. All your important paper. Doesn't mean that you go tell everybody where it is. You're just trying to make sure that if something were to happen, somebody that you trust knows where it all is, okay? Oh, go back. So one of the things you do is put it together in one place and make a list of what those things are. So remember this morning I talked about that lady who didn't know that her mother had long-term life insurance or long-term care insurance? Okay. She had everything, her mother had put everything else together in order, okay, except that. Okay? It wasn't in there and nobody ever knew until after the fact. All right, so make a list of the items and do it before, do it when, you know, you have time. You don't have to like, you know, spend hours and hours, but just make sure you do it at a time where you're not waiting until you start, you know, you're losing consciousness or whatever. You know, you're trying to do it and trying to make sure you have it all together and update it every so often. Make a list of the items. Make sure you tell somebody that you trust, all right? So it may be somebody at the bank, that you work with. It may be that you have a lawyer. It may be a really, really trusted friend. I know that all families are all different, so maybe you tell one of your kids, maybe you don't tell your kids, there's going to be a fight, whatever. But make sure someone knows where everything is, okay? And then you probably should tell your family about who to call in case something did happen, okay? So it's nice to have a big giant box with its lock and key and the keys someplace and you got all your stuff together, but if people can't find it after something happens, then it's no good, okay? So I'm sure you've heard of stories where, somebody dies with a will and then there's a second will. Nobody knew about. Where'd that come from, okay? That's what they do in the movies anyway. So the other thing, one of the things to remember is don't forget you have safety deposit boxes. Do y'all still have those? I had one for like 10 years in Johnson City. I was so excited. They told me they were moving the bank, so I went to go get it. I thought, okay, I'm going to find something really cool in there. I think it was a baseball card. I don't know. Something I thought was really important. Don't forget safety deposit boxes, insurance forms. Make sure you get all that stuff together. Your car keys. Now, why did I say that? I had a really good friend whose father passed away last year. He fell. He was in his 80s. He fell and hit his head and passed away in his sleep. His death was a mess, but I think he had most of his stuff together. It took them 3 days to find his car keys. They didn't know where they were. I've got 5 minutes? Great. I'm not even halfway through. Okay. And your passwords. Everybody have passwords on your computer systems? Okay. You have multiple passwords. You use one. Don't you ever go in and forget your password? You type your stuff in, and it's like, I thought that was the password, and it sends you back. Okay, so you got a lot of stuff on the computer. That's fine. If it's all protected, that's great. If nobody can get into your passwords, well, that's going to be really helpful. Okay? Next. Okay, so I've got all this stuff. I think we're going to put all this stuff on our website. So it's resources, okay? So you can use it. Next. If you don't have a will or a living will or other documents like advanced directives, then maybe you should think about them, okay? Do people basically know what I'm talking about, advanced directives? Advanced directives are basically forms that tell doctors and other people what you basically want, if you weren't able to tell people yourself, like a living will. What kind of treatment do you want or do you not want treatment? I will tell you we're trying to get this a little bit more consistent. There's an attempt to have one form. There's a document called a pulse document, which talks about really towards the end of life what you may need. And that's you sign up with a doctor. But we are trying to get a better handle on all these forms so you don't have to have like 5 and put them everywhere so people will see them. We're trying to come up with a better way, either a registry or something where people can understand. So you hear people who, they're 92 years old, they fall down, ambulance is called, and they end up doing CPR on somebody who didn't want to be resuscitated, a DNR, didn't want to be resuscitated. What happens when you do CPR on a 92-year-old person?
Break their ribs.
You break their ribs, okay? They didn't want to go through that. They had a DNR, but nobody knew it was there. So we're working through that. Portland, I think it's Portland, Oregon, or Seattle. Was it Seattle? Somebody came up with the idea of putting it in a tube and putting it in the freezer. Okay, you put all your important papers in the freezer. Okay, got stuck behind the hamburger patties or whatever. Got to have a better way so everything is consistent. If you don't, we've got some resources on that as well. If you can get them on the Department of Health website, these forms, like a durable power of attorney, or a health durable power of attorney, where you can let somebody make some health decisions for you. Those are things you ought to take a look at. If you have a lawyer, talk to them. Talk to your doctor about it. Look at the forms. If you can't afford an attorney, Middle Tennessee or East Tennessee Legal Services can help, or just call us. Okay. I've got 2 minutes. Great. Okay, go. Have the conversation. Very important. All right. Okay, so all that means is, ABC News started this. Have the conversation now with your kids or somebody so that they know what you want. All right, or they, if you're going to tell them where your important documents are, that's great. But look, it's your life. You decide what you want. If you want to live forever, if you want every last available means to keep you alive, that's fine. If you get to the point where you just, you know, you don't want to be fed, or if you know, whatever it is, whatever you want, have the conversation with your kids, because most people don't, and what happens is the kids then have to start making decisions, and then there's fights in the family and they don't know what to do. Have your conversation. Just talk to them now. It's a lot easier to talk to them now than when you're in a hospital bed and you're trying to explain and they're crying and it's not. So have it now. I've had it with my daughter, and I started by saying, there's nothing wrong with me, I just wanted to tell you what I wanted. Okay? Next. Put together a list of emergency numbers. You should always have this anyway. But as you get older, we've noticed, I'm on a board of a retirement home in Nashville. Somebody fell in their unit and they didn't know who to call. So now they came up with a system where everybody on the back of their door has an emergency list with a phone number. They didn't know who to call because they didn't have the list. Okay, so have that list. There was also this idea of putting some health information on in case you come in and start doing the wrong thing. All right, so there's resources on this one as well. Okay, you can call the Red Cross. They can help you with that. Plan ahead your financial future. I know we've had a financial course in here. Even if you don't have a lot of money, just make sure you talk to somebody. Talk to your bank if that's what you need to do. If you have an investment planner, that's fine. If you don't have anything like that, talk to your bank and make sure that it's protected, okay? Whatever you have, even if it's not a lot, that you know what you're doing. I think that's the next one. Talk to someone you trust, like your bank. Understand your insurance options, which is Medicare or Medicaid, or anything else that you've got. Make sure, don't wait until you turn 65 and then try to figure it all out. Take your time and ask questions, okay? Even if you don't have a lot of resources, make sure that they're protected, okay? And the last one is carefully understand and talk to unbiased people before you sign up for something that sounds too good to be true, okay? Financial scams, all the time, okay? And it may not be, you may have all the safeguards in the world, but then you start forgetting and somebody's really nice to you and they need to borrow $50,000 and they take you to the bank and you give it to them and then you never see them again, okay? It happens. It happened up here. Elder Abuse Task Force is looking at this thing in Nashville. That's a good one. We're going to be looking at that issue for the next 6 months. Very tough when that happens, okay? There's talk about can you go to a bank, if someone goes to the bank and wants to transfer a certain amount of money, like $50,000, can the bank hold back and say, no, we have to check this out first? Is that fair? Is it right? How do you protect the bank? But what if somebody's trying to steal your money? Trying to work through that. Okay, next. Plan for your future living situation. All that means is, as you get older, we're doing it right now. My wife wants to kick me out of the house because she thinks that's important. No, make sure as you look through these things, a lot of people put their master bedrooms on the main floor so they don't have to walk up steps. Eliminate the clutter. You know, bathroom accessible. If you're redoing your bathroom, you may want to think through those things. Most people want to age in place. They want to stay in their house. So just be aware of that stuff as you're going through that. And particularly understand your transportation options, which is a big deal across the state. We don't have as many transportation options as we'd like to. You have to get to the bus stops and other things. Just be aware of that, because you may not have dependable transportation. You need to be aware of that. And have a backup plan, which is basically if you end up not being able to stay at home, where do you want to go? Okay? And I assume I'm out of time, right? Okay, so we'll figure out the rest of it. Talk to your doctor. You should be doing that anyway. Regular checkup, stay active, exercise. Use that brain, okay? Because I practice the principle, whether this is right or not, they're still looking at this from an overall evidence-based program. Use it or lose it. If all you do is watch TV all the time, your brain cells are probably going to stop dying, or start dying. And we want people to be healthy and active for as long as possible. Avoid pitfalls. Basically, that means avoid the scams. Don't fall for this stuff. They're everywhere, all right? There's a website that'll come up after this, FTC, Federal Trade Commission, shows you what the scams are that's out there. Be careful. Just be careful. Even, you know, everybody in here, you know, because we've got all these different ages, people are always trying to scam you out of stuff. Just think through it. Don't give Social Security numbers over the phone, credit card numbers on the phone. I mean, unless you know exactly what's going on or you make the call and you're trying to get something done. Don't fall for that stuff, because they will take you, okay? Next. Review your plans to make sure that they are up to date. with you. Okay, so this is something new I'd never seen before. This guy, head the executive director of the American Bar Association for this group, came up with the 5 Ds in terms of reviewing your overall plans. Every new decade of your life, if you've got a whole set of plans, review at the beginning of the decade. After the death of a loved one, review your plans again. Okay? After a divorce, review. After any significant diagnosis, review your plans, make sure everything's good. And after any significant decline in functioning. I'd never seen this before, it makes sense, okay? Go back and look at it, okay? Because you may have it perfectly in order, and then something happens and you have to go change it. So I'll leave that up for a minute. Live an awesome life. Said that this morning. Go out and have fun. Go back to the nice slide because people are trying to write that down. Every new decade of your life, after the death of a loved one, after divorce, significant diagnosis, significant decline. We want everybody to have fun. This is your life. Do what you want. Go out and enjoy. Hit every one of those bucket lists. Enjoy it. Go to Utah. Go to those national parks. This will make it easier. If you do these things, you don't have to worry so much. Okay? So anyway, thank you. Yeah.
You said keep your brain active. I noticed in the other session that they have the brain games. How do we get involved in something like that?
Okay, so do you belong to a senior center or no? Okay, so do you have a group of people that might want to play? Okay, so let me tell you what it is real quick. Senior Brain Games was an event that we started last year. We started with senior centers. Senior Brain Games we started with senior centers. They formed a team, and they started competing with trivia-based questions, okay? It's actually a trivia bar contest that we stole from a bar, but there's no drinking involved with any of our stuff, okay? All right, that's on camera now too. All right, so we just took the concept. There's a little strategy involved. That's where it came from, the bar part. And they compete we have 9 regions that we broke them up. Senior centers compete against each other, and then we took the 3 from East, 3 from Middle, and 3 from West. They compete against each other. We brought the 3 champions of those regions to Nashville for a state championship. The first year, Lawrenceburg won. Lawrenceburg. This past year, about a month ago, Morristown won. East Tennessee won. Okay? If you're interested, all you have to do is put together a team. You can go to a senior center. You can go to a community center, form a team. We're trying to get the word out. Or, if you don't want to do that, just form a team yourself. And what we do is we have you compete regionally, but the winners we pay for to come to Nashville for a trip. The winning group wins $1,000 for their community center, for their senior center, and they get a big, giant trophy. And they also get to have dinner with me, which is really probably the big thing.
That's the highlight.
Shut up, Billy. Yes, ma'am.
The main reason that I came to this was about like wills and things.
Yeah.
Okay, I did one back in '85 when I was in Chicago, and I obviously think that it needs to be updated or whatever. But the living will, when I had surgery in '94, I did that. Now, is there any expiration in the living will, or is there, and for the
Yeah, I don't
will
think so.
itself, do you have to go to an attorney? Do you just do something online? I've seen these forms filled out because it would be very simple. I have no family, so it's kind of like it'd be left to any like charitable organizations like a cancer association or whatever. But I'm just wondering what attorney you would go to or how you would handle that, because the state was offering a special a special discount for pre-planning funerals and things.
Yeah.
And I just finished paying for mine, and everything is all written down. I even wrote my own eulogy. And so everything is all ready, so the person that I designated, if I happen to outlive them, would just be, it would go to a court in the estate kind of thing. But my question is, since the will was done originally in Illinois because of state laws and stuff, should it be redone, or how would I actually go about doing that?
Yeah, I think, do you have a lawyer? No. Do you have somebody you could,
I don't.
Okay,
but
so
I could get one.
You could get one. What I would do is just call them, make an appointment, take it in. Tennessee laws are different. but you have a will and you have a living will, right? You probably need to update it because some things may have changed. Not that, I mean, it still would be valid because you haven't changed it, but maybe some things have changed over time.
Oh, I'm sure they
Yeah.
have, but see, in Illinois, I had to actually go to the courthouse
Yeah.
in Cook County, and actually it was filed.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, since I've moved states, if I created a new one, does that supersede?
Yeah,
Or
what-
is there something that I have to do to undo the?
They'll do
one
it for
in
you.
County or?
If you go to a lawyer, just explain what's going on,
Okay.
go over it. You may want to you may want to have a new will that's done here. If this is where you're going to live, this is where you plan to be. They will take care of the will. It'll cancel the first will, and they'll take care of doing that. They'll get it, nixed out so there's not two wills floating around out there. Have that. Have them review the living will as well. It's probably still good, but the forms change over time to kind of get up to speed.
But the living will was done
Yeah.
here in Tennessee, and it was
Okay.
in '94, which obviously is 20 years. So.
Long time ago, I would take it in and get it checked. Okay. They're telling me to get out of here, but I see another hand.
I was just going to ask if we were going to have time for the other session.
Yeah, I'm going to be quiet. We'll keep going because this is the last one. Okay. So I'm taking my microphone out of my pocket.
Get it to.
Okay. We'll keep going. As long as you're okay. The lunches will be here. You'll be fine. We're all set, Julie. Yeah.
So I'd like to introduce quick round of applause for Jim Shulman.
I'll let you click through them.
So I'd
That's
like to
okay.
introduce Dr. Joe Florence. He's going to go over some of the health screenings you want to make sure that you get taken care of.
How do? I'm Joe Florence, and I'm a family practice doc. I like to think of myself as a country doc because that's where most of my life has been. I grew up a city boy, and the government paid for my medical school, and I owed them time. And they said, you have to go to Appalachian, Kentucky, and work there in the coal mines. And so that's where I went. I had 2-year obligation, stayed there for 19 years, fell in love with it, fell in love with the people there. And that's why I'm here. I run the rural programs for the College of Medicine here. My job is to train the doctors and other healthcare professionals to work as teams, to work in communities, to work where they're needed. So that's what I do, and this is my perspective as a country doctor about you. Number one, take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live. Now that's a real important theme as a doctor because that's what most of my time is done, is helping you take care of your bodies. And we have in medicine, we think of ourselves as scientists, and as such, we want to know proof of everything. The reality in medicine, we have proof of very little, but we do know a lot about a few things. And a bunch of doctors get together every year and say, what do we need to know? What can we be doing for people to really help them prevent these diseases that are so common, their heart disease and their diabetes and their strokes and their cancers and stuff like that? What can we as doctors do with that? And they get together with a group. There's several different groups, but the most prominent one is known as the U.S. Preventive Task Force, U.S. Preventive Services Task Force. And this is actually a government-funded organization that's not part of the government. They just fund it, and they pull these eggheads in, the best of the best, and they come together and they put together lists of things. This is what the literature says is definite. We know this. And this is just a list of some of the things that it's very clear. We know beyond a shadow of doubt these things will help you. Aspirin. Aspirin. One little baby aspirin. If baby aspirin was designed right today, it would cost you at least $100 a month. At least, probably $100 a week. It is such a wonderful drug. One baby aspirin a day. It helps prevent strokes in women and heart attacks in men. So if you're in those age groups or have the propensity in your family, you ought to be taking that little simple baby aspirin. Cervical cancer screening. Women still die of cervical cancer. It's really a shame because most of the time it's a preventable disease. we actually have immunizations against it, And, you can get your immunizations when you're 16 years old or 12 years old, whatever. You take this immunization and that helps prevent it. But, as you get older, you've already been struck by the virus that, that can give you this. So make sure that you are getting your cervical cancer screening. And those that are at low risk, i.e. women over 65, you don't necessarily need a pap smear anymore. But that doesn't mean you don't need a female exam, because there's a whole lot of stuff going on down there besides cervical cancer. And so, you might well need to be seeing that gynecologist or your family doctor on a regular basis to, help you, through those exams and through those issues. Colorectal cancer screening, huge issue. People die regularly of colorectal cancer, and it's fairly easy to screen for. Different methods of screening. Simple test is just do a Hemocult card. Now that shows cancer if you've already got it, because you're losing a little bit of blood regularly. But it's a very simple tool to do. You can do it at home. 3 of those little cards at home. Check your stool, bring it to the doctor, and they say, you got blood in your stool? We need to work you up to see if you have cancer because you're spilling blood, you're losing blood. And so that's a huge deal. So get your colorectal cancer screening. HIV infection, not so much in our population here in East Tennessee. We have a fairly low rate, believe it or not, but there are plenty of places in the country that, man, you need to have your HIV test if you're, if you're alive, because you are at risk, you're at high risk, to have HIV. Things that kill people, blood pressure. Everybody, every year, needs to have your blood pressure screened. And, we, in this Appalachian region known as the Bible Belt, this is also known as the coronary belt. We have a lot of heart disease here. So make sure you get your blood pressure screened, make sure you're getting your lipids checked, because those are things that will kill you, and those are things that you can do something about. You can get your blood pressure under control, you can get your cholesterol under control, and you can stop smoking. Eastern Tennessee loves to smoke. We have some of the highest smoking rates here in the country, and we need to stop that because, we're just hurting ourselves. So anyway, anything you can do to help your neighbor quit, it's something you could do. Next slide. These other things, I won't go into them because we don't have time. There are a whole lot of things that are of benefit that are less substantial benefit. And you can access these things very easily on the website. There's a website available that you can actually plug in your age, your sex, whether or not you're sexually active, whether or not you smoke, and it will give you the list. This is what you need to do. Do these things. And we will send everybody that email address on your email if you gave us your email. Next slide. Okay, next thing. You've taken care of your body. You got to take care of your brain. Your brain. I mean, this goes way, way back to biblical times. Romans 12, it says take care of your brain. It's important. It was important back then, it's important now. Next slide. 6 pillars of a healthy brain lifestyle. Be active in your social life. Don't sit around just watching TV all day. You need to be active. Those interactions, those relationships are real important. Exercise. You got to exercise. What happens when somebody is going to kill you? You want to run away, right? You want to run away, so you exercise. If that lion, you're a prehistoric caveman, that lion is after you, you run. So that's a safety mechanism. It's your body's safety mechanism. It controls a lot of good things. So you exercise, it keeps your diabetes under control, it helps your hypertension, it helps your cardiovascular disease, it just makes you feel better. Exercise regularly. Healthy diet. I'm a bad one to tell you about that. Healthy diet. I eat a real healthy diet. This body was not made from salads. Okay, so do as I say, not as I do. Healthy diet. Mental stimulation. We talked about those brain games. Yeah, anything to help stimulate your brain. Sleep quality. Make sure you're getting some sleep. You gotta sleep. As you get older, you need a little bit more sleep. Some people do, and some people can't sleep. Some people sleep less, and so 4 hours of sleep is fine for some people. But make sure you're getting enough for you. You need to do that. Stress management. Stress management. Everybody's under stress every day. Some people know how to handle it real good. Some people, their lives just fall apart and everything goes wrong. And so you want to be the kind of person that can manage the stress that's there, because the stress ain't going to go away. It's there. We live in the United States, stress all around us. And so, next slide. Third thing. You got this spirit there. This spirit. I see this so much. I've got this patient there that's dying of their terminal cancer, and they're just eat up. Their body is eat up. Their mind is gone from that metastatic disease. But that spirit is still there. And it's just amazing how they can make it through those last moments of their life because they have that spirit. And that spirit is just key to your health and well-being. You've got to take care of yourself. So this spirit thing I'm talking about is about relationships. It's about relationships to yourself. It's about relationships to your neighbor and to your family and to the other people around you. It's about relationships with your nature, you know, with the world outside. And we live in one of the most beautiful places in the world right here in Appalachia. It's just, every morning I get up, I said, this is great. This is great. And your relationship with God. Those things, those relationships are so important. And make sure that you're aware of those relationships and that you make sure that they're happening, because they will make your life better. So, last slide. Body, mind, spirit. I'll leave you with those. You take care of all those things, you'll live a wonderful, happy life.
We need to vote.
Sorry.
So that was good. He was quick, a lot quicker than I was. So anyway, Anna Lea Cothron is going to end us off. We're probably going to go a few minutes over.
I know what I do, just hold it.
Okay. Watching. This is Congressman Phil Rowe. For those of you, I'm he's going to watch it.
Yeah, I think so.
You got something to hand out?
Yeah, here in a second.
I think we're all going to
I'll give it to you.
out in the lobby before we eat. The food's here, but I'm going to block the door so you can't leave. And then Congressman Rowe will address all of us. But if you want to grab a seat,
Maybe should I put it in my bra? Is that bad?
Okay.
I'm gonna turn it around.
It's important for us to say, too, before we lose you, before you leave this room, you'll notice that there's a lunch ticket in each of your folders, and attached to that is a survey.
Oh, sorry.
Knock that out for us real quick. Sorry. Not before the next speaker,
That one,
but
yeah.
we've got some pens.
We really, what we need to do is we really want to know.
Yeah, does anybody need a pen?
It's not that we're not going to let you eat.
Yeah.
But you're gonna,
And I'll stand over here. I'm not gonna walk around.
And so, yeah.
All right.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna give you a down and dirty about recreation and leisure, okay? So what Dr. Florence was talking about, I'm actually gonna hit on 4 of those pillars for a healthy brain and a healthy lifestyle. So to kind of piggyback on what he was saying, how important those are, the things that I know most about are those recreation and leisure. So who in here knows what I'm talking about when I say recreation and leisure? Good, good. Awesome, awesome. It's a really important aspect of your lifestyle and well-being. So we've got some definitions. Sorry, I'm just going to go like this. So we've got some definitions up here. Leisure is time free from obligations. So who in here has no obligations? Yeah, right. Everyone's got obligations, but I really want you to focus on that free time. Free time is so important. You have to carve that out. You have to find that free time. It is just as important as any part of your health and wellness is finding that free time as well. So it's time free from obligations. Leisure activities are voluntary. They're not work-oriented, and they do not involve life maintenance tasks such as house cleaning or sleeping. So I kind of want to talk about that for a second. Everybody in here is going to have a different idea when it comes to recreation and leisure. Who in here likes to clean house? There's got to be one of you. Yeah, there always is one. There's always one. Some people love that. I cannot stand cleaning the house. That is not leisure to me. For those of you that it is, please feel free to do that. So leisure is really what you make it. I want you to think about things that are important to you when we go through this. Does everyone understand these definitions? Any questions? Go ahead. Okay. So leisure behavior and recreation therapy. Leisure behavior is intrinsically motivated and things that are enjoyable and meaningful to you, the individual. I can't stand up here and tell you what you find enjoyable, so that's kind of on you to think about what's enjoyable for you. Recreation therapy, I'm a certified therapeutic recreation specialist, so that means that my job is to really promote all these good things that you're doing in your life and to continue them as you age. So a lot of times I hear the things, barriers of, I don't have enough time, or I just don't want to do that anymore, or I don't have the resources, or I don't have the body that I used to. I hear all that. I totally agree with you, but what I want you to start thinking about is how can you adapt your leisure to your lifestyle now. It's not something that you can just stop just because you hit a certain age. You've really got to adapt that. And the thing about the recreation therapy definition that I want you to think about is purposeful. Purposeful. All right, so how can you make those leisure activities more in your life? We were talking about watching TV. I love to watch TV. It's not a bad thing. Everything in moderation, of course. How can you boost that activity, though? You can talk about it with your friends. You can talk about that TV show with your friends and have a discussion about it. You can write something about it. You can call into the local television show and start talking about it as well. So that's just one example of how to really boost those activities. So speaking of activities, I have something for you to do. So we're going to take a little group activity. If you want to pass those out. So I want you to pair up in twos. So like you two or you three can be together. You two, you two. You two. You two. You two. I like how everybody's sitting. Okay. There you go. Oh, sorry. There you go. You two. You two. And then pass one down. You three can be together. All right. So this is called the ABCs of leisure. And the goal of this is to increase your ability to identify leisure activities and to increase your awareness of various leisure activities. So there is a prize at the end of this. I have a little surprise for you. I want you to take 2 minutes, and I want you to, I know, only 2 minutes. You got to rack your brain. This is a brainstorm activity, so work with your partner and come up with a leisure activity for each letter of the alphabet. Okay, so only leisure activities. So if you write apple pie for A, that ain't gonna fly. You gotta write something like art or archery. All right? Any questions? Okay, go. I want you to think about activities you can do with your family. Think about activities you can do alone. Think about activities you can do indoors or outdoors. Yes, skip around on those ABCs and fill it out. All right, you got about 1 more minute. Think about activities you do for leisure in the fall, in the spring, in the winter. Think about things you do for relaxation. That might be an R. Things you do for fun. Things you do for exercise. All right, you got about 15 seconds. Think about things that you want to do, activities that you've never done that you might want to try. Hang gliding, maybe? All right, stop. Okay, good, good. Was that difficult, hard, easy? Difficult? What was difficult about it? You need another minute? My time constraints. Once you started filling everything out, was it easy to kind of flow with activities? No? Okay. Now what does that mean? We need to use our free time more, right? Was there anything on your list that you've always wanted to try? Something that you've never done? Ukulele playing, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, count up how many you got. I want to know your total number. Okay, write it down on your paper. Okay. Okay. I hear some numbers being thrown out there. Oh! Anybody have more than 26? Okay, my ladies that had 26, give us an activity that you don't think anybody else would have on their paper. What's your most unique?
Parachuting, really?
Parachuting? Kite flying? Needlework. That's excellent. Excellent. Oh, yoga, an excellent activity. Ooh, very wonderful, wonderful. Anybody else have an activity that they think nobody else would have? Ukulele playing. I heard fencing. That's awesome. Zip lining. Perfect. Good, good. Okay, well, if 26 is the one we can't beat, that you guys are the winners, that means you guys get to go through the lunch line first. All right, so let's talk about some benefits. There are many, many benefits to participating in recreation and leisure. So it's not just fun, and I definitely don't want anybody to feel guilty for taking that free time for yourself. It's so important for you to carve out that time every day if you can, at least 3 days a week, to do a leisure and recreation activity. Here's some benefits that are up here. So what I want us to do now is, in looking at these benefits, I'm going to name off an activity, and I want you to yell out what benefits are associated with those activities. So let me see. Let me give you an easy one first. Benefits of jogging. Cardiovascular, good. What else? Stress management. Where are all my runners at in here? Good. It's fun. Anxiety, depression, good, good. Better cognitive function, maybe a challenge, maybe a sense of accomplishment. So all those are really good. Who knew? Just by tying up your tennis shoes and going for a quick run. Okay, let me give you a harder one. Okay, meditation. Who meditates in here? Good. Healing. Decrease anxiety. Decrease depression. Makes you be quiet. Good, good. Maybe getting in touch with nature, Excellent. Okay, last one, really tough. I think it's hard. Genealogy, is that an activity anybody participates in? Oh, wow, a lot of genealogy. Good. What are some benefits of that? Social interaction, nurturing relationships, better cognitive function. Good. It might be a little fun if you found out that there was some scandal. Who knows? Good. Any more benefits that you can think of that I didn't list up here? The benefits are endless. The possibilities are endless. And I know it sounds simple, and I'm kind of preaching to the choir because everybody in here, you're already taking a step towards your health by even being here. Spread this word around, though. Anybody that your friends or family that you can see, maybe they are depressed, maybe they are having some stress management. It's really important to boost those leisure activities as well. All right, so we did the benefits. And I think I'm done. Questions, comments? Go ahead.
I just had one question.
Sure.
I have a neighbor, and unfortunately, she's very, with it, she's 87 years old, her eyesight is going.
Gotcha.
She's extremely depressed about it.
Okay.
She did have a lot of activities. What would you recommend for, like, I mean, I try to visit her, we have coffee together, but I could tell she's really depressed because she's losing a lot of her,
Okay.
what she likes to do.
So the question was, you know, when you lose your eyesight, if you lose your eyesight, what activities can you do? So probably I would say gardening, music, really being outdoors I think is important. The social interaction, of course. There's lots of things on the internet now that we had never had any idea what was out there. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Any other audience? What do you think?
If she likes to read, or she would like, then the state library provides for those that are, yes, they will send books.
Audio tapes, books on tape, and they're wonderful. That's a great, great suggestion. Go ahead.
What's the newest thing on the edge of recreational therapy now? What are you most excited about?
Ooh, what am I most excited about? Gosh, that's a really good question. I'd probably say there's a group out of California that's really trying to do some new and innovative apps and different things like that. As far as social, you know, the whole social media thing is huge, and there's still some back and forth about, is that the same as one-on-one interaction? I think the jury's still out. But there is a really cool app, and I'll send you the link to it. It's for people who aren't necessarily computer tech savvy. So you have one screen on your iPad, and really I think about it, my grandmother's 85. She doesn't really understand the whole Facebook, Instagram. It's really tough for her to kind of navigate that, and plus you get all those pop-ups and spam, and she has signed up for some crazy stuff. Don't do that. But it's one touch. It's one touch, and everything that your family and friends send is all in one place. So if I posted on Facebook and you posted on Instagram and you emailed her a picture, it would all be right there, and she can communicate. So I think that's pretty neat. So kind of utilizing that kind of stuff. Go ahead.
Just tying the two topics in around the computer technology and social networking.
Yeah.
And sight impairment. I'm not quite sure where one obtains them, but I do know that there are devices that make computers totally available for people with impaired vision.
Yeah.
And I would imagine the folks that specialize in that field can help, but I know someone who actually is in town who has all of that. So the connectability can still be there.
Yes.
They can still email and Facebook and all that other good stuff. Might be a strong learning curve, both that technology and plus if they've never been on, but the world can still be very, very
Yeah. There's voice recognition now where you can email just by talking. I think that's amazing. She said most senior centers can provide this as well. Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time. Everything will be emailed. And we'll fill out your evaluations if you can. And then we'll turn them in. Those are your lunch tickets. So I don't want to take up too much of your lunch time. Go ahead, Keith, sorry.
No, that's, you covered a lot of ground. And so, like, let's do one more round of applause for all the great speakers.
Yeah!